Again, Vinny Viola, friend of ours that owns the Florida Panthers. He also owns Virtu, which is one of the largest high-frequency firms on earth, and it's publicly traded. So you could have a piece of it too, folks. I don't think he's giving you a piece of the Panthers, but the Panthers are going to give this guy a little something out of this Lord Stanley's Cup. Let's roll the tape.
What the hell? They call that drinking out of a fire hose a lot of the time, right?
Yeah. And I saw other videos, Pete, of the Panther players taking the Stanley Cup into the ocean, right off of South Beach and things. They just went running in, carrying the cup and everything. That's one of the cool things that hockey does.
Yeah.
Football, baseball, they don't get to do that. They do get to have the trophy. And knock on wood, Pete, I got to get my picture taken with the World Series trophy, once with the Sox and once with the Cubs, because they brought it to the floor of the Chicago Board Option Exchange. It was called back then. Now it's SIBO Global Markets. But it's pretty cool that they walk around with these trophies, but nobody does it like the NHL, because the players get the cup. Every player who is on the roster gets that cup for a day. And some of them choose then to use that day way overseas or whatever. But these guys haven't even slept, Pete. Since they won the Stanley Cup, they've just been partying with their fans down in Florida. And it's pretty cool to see, the relationship. Not that I'm dancing on the Edmonton Oilers' grave, and, McDavid's still one of the best there is. But that was a great series, and you can see them letting off some steam right here.
Having a lot of fun. And like you said, the players get to have it for a day. And it's a really cool experience, John, because obviously Minnesota being the state of hockey outside of professionally, professionally we are not. We have to concede to Florida. They got Tampa, they got Florida. We've got no Stanley Cups here in Minnesota ever. But we do have a lot of great hockey, men and women, from every level all the way up until you get to the pros. Then we have a major issue. But it is cool because a lot of kids that actually get into the NHL have been on teams that have won the Cup, and they bring it back here. There's a guy from White Bear a couple of years ago, a guy from Stillwater around the corner from me a couple of years ago as well. So it is pretty cool, and it's great to be in the backyard. I've been lucky enough to be in one of those recently. So a couple of years ago when St. Louis had won one. So it's kind of fun. It really is. It's something special. All right, John, let's jump into the sports, though. So number one, the NBA draft. Are you pretty thrilled about this? And I'll tell you why you're not, because I'm already going to answer that. The NFL draft is something special, right? I mean, there is something so cool about that. But the problem sometimes, I think, with the NBA and the NHL is name recognition. People don't know who these guys are. And the problem is this. Here's my example. It's not that we don't have some great college players going into the NBA draft. But we've got, right now we've got a guy, Reisiker from France. We've got Sarr from Australia. We've got Topic from Serbia. We got another guy from France. And these guys are all somewhere in the top 10, John, of estimated draft picks this year. So who cares is right. I mean, when you look at it, I'll give you another one. How about this? Last year, they had 4.9 million viewers in the first round of the NBA draft, right? Sounds like a big number. It's an okay number, but the NFL draft averaged 12 million. So a little bit different, I would say. And I think a lot of that has to do with name recognition. People want to know who the hell these guys are. And when you're getting guys from Serbia that nobody's ever heard of, or maybe even, you're getting some college guys, but this year's class, I'm telling you, John, it might be the worst class in a long time. Not for major reasons, but nobody's really excited. Nobody's talking about, geez, we might have to trade the world to try to get up to number 2 because this guy's that good. They just aren't this year. It's not the same as it's been in the past, but it's again, I think, a name recognition problem, both in hockey and in basketball compared to football, where we know who the first 5-6 guys are going to be, and there's going to be trades to get them like we did this last year with all those quarterbacks. So I don't know if there's a fix, John, but that's what I see with the NBA. And I can tell you, I don't know how they could fix it because let's be honest, a lot of these European players and players from the rest of the around the world are pretty damn good. We just saw it in the playoffs itself, right?
Yeah, we're about to see it, Pete, in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Because Puerto Rico, great players. Brazil, great players. Like you already said, Serbia, Croatia, great players. And China's got some guys that are 7'3" and 7'6" and things like that. I don't know if they're great players, but they're big shot blockers. But yeah, and it is an international game, more so than football, a lot more like hockey, because hockey is truly, as Pete said, a lot of hockey players that come out of Minnesota play for teams other than the Wild, which is the Minnesota professional hockey team in the NHL. But they play on every team in the NHL, and they're great players. And the same thing is said, Pete, of players, again, just like basketball. Croatia, yeah. Serbia, yeah. Russia, yeah. Sweden, Finland, Norway, yeah. So there's a lot of great players around the world. Those are more international games than football, and I think that helps the ratings, Pete, because the people know them. They know those players from Connecticut that won the title this year, but those guys might not be the top players picked in the draft at all. I don't know for sure, but I don't know that those guys are going to be ahead of those foreigners that we just talked about, Pete.
Yeah, I think the big center from UConn probably, and a lot of people are very high on Reed Shepherd, a kid out of Kentucky who's a heck of a shooter. So, but after that, it kind of drops off. All right, John, going back to the NFL, because you know what? There's nothing quite like the NFL, and you and I both played on it, enjoyed it, loved everything about it. By the way, training camp is not that far away, my friend. July 13th is the first one, I believe, and that's the Baltimore Ravens are going to be starting their camp for the rookies, and then the veterans come in afterwards. But it's always pretty cool. It's always exciting. But I had this for you. There's a lot of quarterback battles that are going to be going on. And I think that there's one that stands out for me, and you and I will have to kick it around. Well, there's a couple, actually. Russell Wilson and your old Chicago Bears, Justin Fields at Pittsburgh Steelers. That could be pretty damn interesting because everybody just figures, well, Russell. I'm still on the bandwagon of Justin. I think that guy's got athleticism. I don't think they used him the proper way. And when they did, you guys were a damn good football team, I thought. And he's a great athlete. I think they might have given up on him a little bit early. But then you've got, how about this guy, Jarrett Stidham? Now, he's an Auburn quarterback. He's been everywhere. Go to the Broncos. And you know who else is at the Broncos? Bo Nix. So you've got a quarterback you just grabbed. You've got Jarrett Nason. Oh, and by the way, you got Zach Wilson. Those are your quarterbacks. Here's an interesting stat as you want to roll this one around, John. So Zach Wilson's 24 years old. You know how old Bo Nix is? 24 years old. The difference is Zach Wilson's already played 4 years in the NFL for the Jets. And now you're getting Bo Nix, who has not played a down in the NFL yet. So that's an interesting one too. And I think the world of Bo Nix, I think he's actually going to be the guy who stands up and is the quarterback fairly early, but we'll see. But you got a bunch of them. You got Gardner Minshew and O'Connell at the Raiders. You got J.J. McCarthy and Sam Donald at the Vikings. You got Drake May and Jacoby Brissett at New England. There's a lot of them. What's your favorite battle? Do you got one that you look at and say, you know what?
Justin Fields, of course.
Yeah.
And I agree with Pete 100%, folks. I hope Caleb Williams works out for the Bears. He's certainly a talented kid, and so was Fields. So we'll see. But I agree with Pete's assessment. I don't think the Bears gave him the proper team around him. I don't think the coaching for his position was that great. And Justin's going to get just the opposite. He's going to have a team built around him, and he's going to have better coaching, we think. And I hope Caleb Williams does fabulous with that. But Justin, I would say he's probably got, not in a bad way, Pete, but in a good way, a chip on his shoulder. Yeah. He wants to prove something in Pittsburgh. And I'm sure Mike Tomlin wants him to prove something in Pittsburgh, too.